Hi there, and welcome to this tutorial regarding a clip we've posted earlier called the Tunnel Twister. It's not a very complicated patch, so it won't be a very long tutorial. I'll show you the basics how to set up this patch, and hopefully it provides you the tools to extend the patch by yourself. So let's get started. We'll start with a clean project. I'm going to extend the range. It's more convenient for looping kind of animations. I'm going to play the timeline, double click, just set up a render setting. So if you hold Control, it won't close the create dialog every time you insert a new node. So Control, geometry, camera, render, a light, and I believe that's it. So they're all here. The geometry one, I'm going to delete the torus. I'm just going to use the stock footage from derivative, so a movie file in. So open the folders, nature. I'll use this one. Put this one in the background. Let's see the resolution. Matches. Use an over in here. Close it with a null. Going to split my window. Set this one to panel. If we put an out in here, it shows up right there. Okay, start with the geometry. I used a circle for this one, so you can basically get a lot of shapes out of a circle, because the divisions, if you set this one to 3, you have a triangle. Set this one to 4, you get a rectangle. Let's keep it a rectangle. I'm going to put a hole in here. So what I usually do, set this one to open. Going to rotate it 45 degrees. And let's close this one with a null. Alt N, shortcut. And if we attach a geometry here, you see that it's already showing up. I won't be needing this one anymore. So I would like to have another rectangle in here and then bridge these two with a couple of faces. Insert a copy. Press P. Number of copies is 2. So the 1 stands for the original and the 2 for the second. Make this one a little bit smaller. So you see it's already forming the shape from the animation. So this is basically your new geometry. So every transformation after needs to be applicable to this one. So I'll put a new transform in here. So now I can scale this one and the copied one will transform along with it. fill in the faces. Use a polyloft. So there it is. To give it some kind of thickness, I use an extrude. I think I'm going to split the top, put in a geometry viewer in here. It's a little bit thick. To the values. The depth scale. I'm not going to make it too thick. You would like to have some kind of sense of depth. And I think if you make it subtle, the effect will be much nicer. Set this one aside. I'm going to set this one in wireframe mode. Press W to see how the geometry is generating. At first glance it's looking okay. I think I'm going to start with a material. I use a PBR because this one reacts nicer with a light source. Oh. Alt N. Material. And I use this same texture for the base color. So in here. It's not showing up yet. We have to insert a texture, SOP, like this. Let's see where the camera is positioned. Put it in here for now. Let's see, in the polyloft, set this one to on. Three-point distance. This is looking fine. Take the light source, put it a little bit more up front. In here. Let's see. That's already showing up here. Maybe we have to tweak the normals a little bit. So attribute, create, compute normals. Let's have a look at the material. PBR. Set the metallic to 0. You see that it's starting to show up. Make the light a little bit stronger. Yes, there it is. Okay. So this is the basic setup. And now we're going to work with the instancing data. And I use a pattern for that. Pattern. Let's start with 15. And if we plan our network ahead, this length is probably a variable we are going to use in a bunch of other settings. So what I usually do is I use a constant, set this one to length 15, and just drag this one in here. So I only have to adjust this one and the rest will follow along. So the camera's positions over here. I would like to have a bunch of copies generated farther from the camera. I use a ramp for that. So it starts at 0. And let's say where we're going to let this one end. Just arrange 30. Probably do the trick. It's going to be transformed in the z-axis. Let's call this one TZ. So we have 15 samples laid across a length of 30 units. Close this one with a null. And we can already use this one as our instancing data. So instance, switch it on. It was the null 4. TZ. It's going in the wrong direction. But we'll fix that later. For now, I put a transform in here. And showing all the bunch of channels we don't need. So I select behind it. Isolate the TZ. To give this array some kind of movement. I'm going to use an expression abs time.seconds. You see that it's now moving upward. And if you put a limit in here, that this animated value is going to be looped within boundaries. So loop. It's a little bit too tight. Let's see, a 0. And it's going further from the camera, so that would be the minus direction, minus 35, 30. Okay. Going to put the camera a little bit further in the z minus direction, because the last one is basically disappearing, and that's not something we would like to see. It just has to disappear outside the canvas. So the camera needs to be a little bit closer. Somewhere over here will do the trick. Let's adjust the lights a little bit. To give the last one a little bit of shadow. Okay. It's a little bit too bright for my taste. I think I'm going to adjust the, let's see, shadows. Just the size. To give it a subtle shadow edge around here. It's still a little bit too bright. Let's leave it there for now. If we put a blur in the background, you see that the contrast is a little bit higher between this generated geometry and the background. It's subtle, but see it a little bit better now. Okay. I think I would like to have the geometry up front a little bit smaller. So I'm going to use this limit and just rearrange the values. So the scale, that would be the scale, put a select in here. Call this one scale. Let's see. So in order to rearrange the scale, we need the minimum and maximum value of the TZ. And that's something we've put in here. I think I'm going to let this one, I think I use another variable. Call this one, let's see, length. Oh, we already had length. Give this one a different name, divisions. This one length. Okay. Change this one divisions. Op constant 1 length. Okay, set this one to 30. And we're back. So from range, it's the minus 30 right here. So length multiplied minus, okay. So this section is not hard coded anymore. I'll just use this one. Like that. And adjust the length. So the from range up, constant length, multiply minus 1, and let's see, put a null in here, going to the scale section, null 5. Put scale in all the sections. And I would like to have it the other way around, so switch these two. I think I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger. Okay. Still a little bit too bright for my taste. If I use another, this one. Yeah, it's definitely too bright. I think I have to adjust the roughness a little bit. Okay, that looks much better. And I think we're almost done. But let's see. Would be a nice effect if we generate an alpha variable, so the geometry up front has an alpha of 1. And if we're going further away from the camera, alpha becomes smaller. Let's see. We can use this limit again. It's basically the same trick we did here, just rearrange the scale. The alpha is something we would like to see between 1 and 0. So the math, I think we can copy this one as well. If you press Ctrl-Shift-V, it will paste at the position where your mouse is. Disconnect. Call this one alpha. It becomes a little bit messy now. I like to have my networks clean and tidy for overview's sake. Close this one with a null. I'll just put a 0 in here. So the first one would be alpha 0 or 1, the last one 0. Going to the second one, color up, null 6, put an A in here, and you see that it's already happening. Could probably put a switch in here, so we can flip through the different effects. So if you take a pattern, set this one to constant and give it the variables from the constant one. So divisions, length, actually we don't need that one, leave the one. 15 as well, put a switch in here, call this one A as well. So if we flip through this, you see the effect happening. And if we, for instance, put a switch here as well to remove the background, I think I'm going to put a null in here. Give it the same resolution as the null, 7 width. Height. Alpha 0. Switch. Gives an interesting effect. Personally like it with the background on. So what's left? You can do a rotation. Let's see. Just copy this section. I think I'm going to well, you lose a slider. Let's pick a moth. 360. So full rotation. Let's see. Put this one to 0. Put this one in here. A null. Let's see, it's going to rotate around the z-axis, so RZ. Rotates null 9 RZ. And if you go to our slider, down the rabbit hole, and you can of course play with the thickness. Just make this one smaller. In our develop tool, I've made a custom component, or I just made a tox out of this, where I put all the parameters in a customize parameter section. Divisions. I would like to have it a circle, just make it a bigger value. The more divisions, the more smoother it gets. Set it on to 0 again. Play with this, make it a bit thicker, thinner. Let's see if we take the other clip. Shadows are a little bit too harsh for my taste. Let's see. Just rotate it for your own taste. You see that now the geometry is getting smaller and now it's disappearing here. If that happens, you can just put the camera a little bit closer to the origin point. So now it's not, it's just disappearing behind the canvas. And that's basically it, really. Hope you like this tutorial. Please like and subscribe to stay up to date. Have a look at our Patreon, where we've developed this patch inside a tox shape. It's more convenient to use. I've set up all the parameters and the rotations for you. But I think I've hopefully provided you with enough insight to build that tool yourself. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch up next time.